Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wisdom Exchange number 4. So, this morning I thought to do something a bit more unscripted, a bit short, and something to get into the flow state because I'm going to be talking about the flow state, expressing yourself, and why it's good for you. And also just for me, because we had some really great conversations with Lav and Sunny, Lavanya and Sunny, on the live streams. So if you haven't watched that, check that out. So I just wanted to do like a solo podcast a bit because I feel like practicing talking live, practicing talking a bit unscripted and off the cuff is actually quite hard to do. And I want to get better at it. So if I practice more and more, being able to find out what I want to say when it's unscripted, developing a bit more confidence, and um, yeah, being able just to be a bit more eloquent in what I'm saying will be really helpful. So I'm going to turn this music off now because the intro is finished. I'll take my headphones off. So yes, I can actually hear myself now. Is this focused? Okay, good. So also when it's live, it's very hard to get yourself across. But compared to YouTube shorts or short videos, they do take a lot of time and preparation, but they're quicker in grabbing people's attention. So hopefully a format like this is really what I enjoy. It gets the juices flowing, and I enjoy teaching and learning about philosophy, psychology, self-improvement, wisdom, all that good stuff, and personality, of course, and exchanging that with everybody. So learning and teaching and sharing. And what I find is that often it's associated in at least the South Asian culture, maybe society at large, that when you are teaching or sharing something, it sometimes have to be very structured or very planned, but sometimes having a longer dynamic way of teaching and learning is sometimes a bit more authentic and enjoyable. And I enjoy the more long form conversations as well because you obviously don't know what you're going to say and some insights can come and it's a bit more creative as well. So I enjoy that. Also for me, it's this type of thing. It doesn't matter how many people watch. It's more that how I'm able to express myself and how I'm able to be authentic and be myself on camera and try to be a bit more confident, making eye contact, speaking at a good tone, and making sense of what I want to say, and making sure the things I say is what I want to say. So that's also good. So in any case, I don't really doesn't really matter how many people watch this. If it's just even if it's just one or two people who find it useful, it's quite good because it has that deeper impact. And short forms are good, but it can't get to that depth of level sometimes that you can get to when you're in these long form conversations. So there's definitely good in both. So yeah, like I said, I wanted to talk about the inner world and outer world and flow states. So only probably be about 15-20 minutes. So that's good. So what I wanted to talk about was when we when we are in our inner world and we're talking, sometimes and a lot of the times, if you're not recording on YouTube or recording yourself, you don't see how the way you talk or how the way you interact with the world. You're often seeing how people are interacting and how they're talking to you, but you don't see how you're talking to the world. And so your inner voice and your inner voice of expression, sometimes, depending on what type of personality you are and what character, can be limited because you don't know yourself very deeply. So you're not putting your inner voice into the outer world. And that's really important because if you're in a job and you want to speak in meetings, I know for me, there's a lot of anxiety and self doubt to do that because you obviously are not 100% in knowing what you're saying. And there can be some self doubt or self anxiety. But being able to be comfortable with start to express your internal world, even if you're not confident or even if you don't know what you're going to say, just being comfortable taking these baby steps, because from the outside world we can be told, I've seen a lot in the coaching practice coming from, like, for example, parents, whether it be writing a book, or whether it be maybe doing an art form, or maybe it could be speaking in this kind of way, or speaking in a certain way about certain philosophies, or certain talking about death, or talking about creative expressions, that when you talk in this way, you shouldn't be talking in this way, or you're silly, or it could be you're stupid, or that you're not good enough to talk, or to express in this certain way. Or could it be like, you can't do this until you've attained this knowledge, or you can't do this until you yourself are in a good enough position to do this. And that's all about self limitation and self doubt. And you can do actually things in parallel. You can teach, or you can paint, or you can facilitate, you know, anything, when you yourself are not perfect 100%. And it actually helps, because when you get the ball rolling and you start to do these things you love, and expressing your inner voice, actually your outer reality changes well as well, because when you are talking, or painting, or dancing, you become better and better and better at it, and your confidence grows, and you find new ways of doing that. And often what I find as well, that we are always trying to sometimes find new ways to do things. Maybe we want to dance in a fresh new way, or paint in a fresh new way, or see these concepts in a fresh new way. But often, sometimes it just requires getting some old techniques, or concepts that we've heard before, and just sharing them again in a dynamic way. Because sometimes the truth, or beauty, or the simplicity of things can just be shown in infinite number of ways. And so, in that sense, we can put pressure on ourselves to often come up with something new, when we can just actually repeat things that have been said before, but in a fresh way, in a dynamic way, in a way that can be resonated with people. Because I heard one person talk on YouTube, and they said often they put pressure on themselves not to talk, but their insights, even if it's been said before by other people, their insights and their way of viewing things, and their way of stringing words together, and not just the left brain often likes to just look at that technical concept, the words of what you're saying, but the tonalities of what you're saying, the expression of what you're saying, the analogies and the tones, the patterns of what you're saying could hit differently from audience, and they can resonate with that differently. Um, so everyone has their own different music and their different songs. So I would advocate for anyone, even if they don't think they're good, or even if they're objectively not good at doing something, just to go ahead and do it, because that's where the spark of life comes from. So yeah, so that inner world, there's a lot in the outer world. There's news, there's people saying things, but when you go into the nature, which I'm a big fan of, you start to see that the human world and all the stories start to fall apart, and they fall down, and it's very silent, and it's very quiet, and you start to get to that brain space of your inner voice, and you maybe start to get to that introspective mode, that creative mode, where you just want to be expressing in a creative way, or just watching the landscape and appreciating the nature. Often, when we're in a human world, our brains and our minds can be, our attentions can be taken up by the TV and by the news and by people's stories, because everybody has their own reality that they're going about with talking. And so being in the nature can quiet the mind, and you can start to be in tune with yourself. And so the next stage comes from expressing your inner world. What do I stand for? What are my core values? How can I be expressing myself in that flow state? And through that, we start to change the external world. We're not just a participant, but like this morning, right? The reason why I like doing this is because I actually wake up early. I can do something I love, even though maybe people are not watching this. Maybe one person, two people could find it useful later on. It'll get me more articulate in my speaking, even though if I'm not good now, if I practice a lot. um, I can overcome some self-criticism and self-doubt and feel like I did something today that I'm passionate about and I'm useful about. And also for my other content, I can figure out what are the things I'm naturally talking about that I like, and what can I tone about that's better. So that's a bit about the inner and outer world, about expressing yourself and making that reality come up, from your internal world. Everybody has an internal world, and express that into the external world. What can we give to ourselves in our world, but also people? And that breaks in terms of self-limitation. It gives us empowerment, because when we can express ourselves, when we can, like Lav was talking about in the live stream, right? When she can express herself singing and dancing, when like Sunny can express himself through his teachings and through his philosophy and through what he likes to do. And when I can express myself through editing, when I came back from work, I was often feeling tired. When I started editing, there was a spark of joy and a spark of life that came. And just that spark of joy, spark of life, there's some magic in that, because there's something special and that I love doing, and that gives me a sense of joy and sense of life. But a lot of spiritual people, if you listen to Eckhart Tolle or Muji or other people like that, Sadhguru, they'll talk about, just the joy of life, of um, being alive, just breathing. But I feel like there's something more than just breathing. You want to express yourself in a certain way in life, and sometimes we can get caught up in the mundanities of life. We can take time for that unique spark in life, and also appreciate just the small things and not get caught up, because success, sometimes especially in Asian culture, we can get caught up in terms of achieving success and achieving great things, like traveling here, going there, doing great things. But often the success can just be connecting to your core values and doing the small things in a humble way. Like, for example, you imagine like a small guy in Madagascar planting rice every day, and his success could be making a nice rice crop, making his farm nice. And it could be a guy in China making some pottery, just in a small village, in a small town, and that's his expression of success. Or it could be somebody in Spain in a small alleyway, a small lady doing a small artisan, painting, sculpting, making some wood carvings. That could be her way of expressing. So the point I want to get forward is the your being and connecting to your being, and not being too much up here, but being in the heart, being in the passion, and expressing yourself from that depth, and doing it on a consistent basis is kind of what life's about. And and just prioritizing that little bit of love inside you, because that what gets the success ultimately. And when the success is built on that, that's when the truly successful people are based on their love, the craft that they do every day. And like Eckhart Tolle, I think, said, it's not the um I think it's not the end, not the means, or it's the means, sorry, and not the mean. I don't know, something about that. You know how you have the means to do things, and then the means to an end. It's not the end in itself. But you actually enjoy what you're doing. Like me doing this right now, I'm not doing it to get views. I'm not doing it to, you know, bring any coaching people who are interested. I'm just doing it just to express myself and hopefully resonate with people as well. So there's also a joy in that. And often outside people cannot understand that, because that comes internally. And when you build on that, that's when the outside world can be attracted to that. So then next, I want to talk about that flow state, alpha waves. So if you've ever listened to Dr. Chatterjee's podcast, and who's a medical doctor in the UK who does amazing podcasts, Feel Better, Live More. There's an amazing podcast about flow states, especially alpha waves. When you can get into the alpha state of mind, like today, it took a lot of self-doubt, overcome a lot of self-criticism or anxiousness to sit here. What I'm going to talk about is going to be unscripted. What happens if I make a fool of myself? Noticing that if I ask you, dear viewer, dear listener, friend, or family watching this right now, if you could come on and do a live stream and just talk to the camera, you would also feel the same parts. And these are primal essences. Like I think Jordan Peterson says, is it the anger or the fear that has you, or do you have the anger or fear? These are parts, these are the human conditions. So through coaching, or if you're a therapist, you understand, going through many people, that these are human parts, and anxiety and fear and anger, all these different emotions are playing within me and playing within you. And it's just how we deal with them, and we can teach each other how to pilot them. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to go down and touch them within us. And it's a very traditional, in the philosophies, feminine energy to do that, whereas the masculine energy is often doing things in the world. So that introspective force of going within us and touching um, these different points within us. So I just want to get that across, that me coming on here is interacting and overcoming the same parts that you also have within you. And so, I'm not like an expert in this. I'm just a guy who's very interested and has a special interest, who just keeps digging away, and hopefully will get better. Um, and also like seeing myself in recording, in October 2020 and then posting in early 2021. I think I've come a long way from just doing a wee mobile phone and editing in a corner, wearing the same jumper, I think. Wow. To now doing a live stream by myself, unscripted. This is cool. So that's a bit of a full circle moment as well for me. So yes, going back to the flow state for the alpha waves, when you're in that flow state, like I said, you have to overcome it, right? You have to overcome the boundary. Oh, I don't want to do art. Oh, I don't want to dance today. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this live stream. But then when I'm in it, I feel good. I feel I'm in the flow state. I don't feel like I'm in a zombie state. I feel like all these podcasts I've listened to, all these books I've listened to, my natural way of expressing, right, my extroverted feeling. If you're familiar with the cognitive functions in MBTI, my introverted intuition starts kicking in, and I'm in that top cognitive function states, pulling also into all of the interests I've had, the YouTube videos I've watched, the podcast. So I'm in my flow state right now. I can start to talk about things that I'm interested in. So that's very joyous to me to do, and I can do it out of love, and I can do it at my own pace. Um, Teaching and learning I enjoy. And so that's a bit about my flow state, just to give you an example. But why is getting into the alpha wavelength important? Because it's actually good for our health. It enhances our mood, our creativity, our joy de vivre, they call it, the joy of life, the spark of life. When we're in that flow state, we're really feeling good. And so you have that bit of a hump to get into. But afterwards, like after this live stream, I'll probably feel really good about my day. And I feel like I've expressed myself in a way. And when we can do that in a structured way, in terms of a giving way or a service way, that can be even more fruitful. And when we can incorporate that to our work, right? That job crafting, if you're in a job you don't really enjoy and you can incorporate that flow state in, then that's really good. And I want to separate that from the dopamine effect, because when you're having your lunch or something, you can be scrolling through TikTok or YouTube, and your brain goes back to work and it doesn't get time to rest. It doesn't get time to think. You can't get connected to your hearts and emotions because you're just eating fast for the next meeting, right? So I don't want to make it too much about dopamine detox and everything, because that's enough on YouTube and online. And to be frank, I think the information's good, but I don't think it helps. I think it just implements some fear, and I don't think it helps actually with the solution. So, okay, so you have a lot of dopamine with the TikTok, with the YouTube, and maybe watching TV. Your brain doesn't go into that wavelength, that flow wavelength, it goes numb. So you're wanting to numb all of the stresses of life and everything. So you're watching the TV and you sort of go into the zombie mode. And then afterwards, you sort of feel a bit crap, because you've watched the TV, and then you go to bed and you repeat. And so there's no creativity, there's no joy of life, there's no fresh insights, there's no flow state. So understanding this flow state and what it gives you is so important. And like I said, cutting back on this numbness, that's like the TikTok or the YouTube or the mindless stuff, because we're losing ourselves. We're going into that psychological numb state, that trance state, right? That's so talked about in the podcast and on YouTube. You can find it if you type in, brain wavelength state in the flow state, or brain wavelength state in watching TV. You can find a lot of articles if you're interested. But the point I want to get across is that when we're in the flow state and we have a more in touch with that love, that heart energy, and we're more integrated with our inner child and our heart, and the mind is able to pull these stuff and then implement these stuff into structures, then we're able to come from a place of higher consciousness, that we're not just a bit, a bit more numbed, and we're feeling a bit more happy, we're feeling a bit more upbeat. Therefore, there's been circumstances where people, like when we're in the tribes, you're hugging your friends, your family, your partner, your children, you're giving them, like, I forgot what it's called, like sea efferents in the forearm. There's a certain like quick touch, and then there's a certain long touch, and that is associated with, or like hugging, when people hug you with that slow touch. I forgot exactly what that the nerve center is, but that slow touch and that is associated with oxytocin and dopamine release. And people nowadays are missing that human connection of oxytocin, of dopamine release, because they're getting saturated with the technology, and maybe with their work, it's very high paced and they're getting that dopamine hit. And so it all goes back to know thyself, quieting the mind, coming away from the stories, going into nature, connecting to your core values. It seems a bit weird, when you're in a group conversation, and people are talking with their own stories, and it's hard to try to keep up with them or keep up with their pace of life. But deep down, we know, take the time for yourself, take the time to connect to your own values, to your own essence of your life, what you enjoy doing from the heart, and trying to incorporate that every day, whether it be waking up in the morning and just trying to do 15-20 minutes, just practicing every day, not just for the success first, but just for your own well-being and for your own interest. And you'll find that success hopefully will follow that as well. And that's also a message for myself too, because going through learning and going through the real life practice, talking to other humans, I find that the parts within everybody is really, really the same. The human condition is the same. It's just the way we view ourselves is different, the filters. But really, the parts are very, very the same. But it's then that love of looking past the different parts and holding space to listen. Maybe not trying to solve the problem, but when we have emotional space to listen, because often people are a bit hurting, and so they just need space to listen, and sometimes to solve their own problems. They just want their part to be unburdened. And if you're interested in the parts, if you're interested in transaction analysis, go to my Instagram at Jyoti Video Project, scroll down, you'll find nice resources there. Equally, I've got a lot of YouTube videos. But yes, remember to subscribe. Go slow to go far. That is the coaching model that I'm going to be using in the future. But if you're going to be watching this later, have a good day wherever you are in the world. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you listen to this all to the end, thank you so much. I hope you find it useful, this long form content. If you like it, give me a thumbs up so I know that it resonated with you. I'm going to hopefully keep doing this stuff because I find it interesting, and I'm going to find new and interesting topics and topics of old as well. I'm hopefully going to put my own spin on it and share with you as well. So take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.